we speak there. So, hello everyone, Daryl Black here, and I am taking my years of experience in emergency response and emergency management and crisis leadership and helping people transform their leadership from the inside out. And I wanted to talk to you about a topic that has come up a few times, maybe also during classes that I teach or social media and this belief that leaders aren't really responsible for how people treat each other. And where it comes from is kind of this the mindset is, well, everyone's an adult and you guys need to figure your own shit out. If you're cats and dogs, don't bother me with your petty personality clashes and back talking behind people's backs and things like that. Well, and I understand that because we're kind of ingrained to think, people are responsible, they're adults, and they should be able to take care of themselves and solve their own problems. And also, too, from a professional perspective, you don't want to get too far into some personality and personal issues for sure. So I totally understand why there's a bit of a reluctance for leaders to enforce behavior. But I'm here to tell you that what we're really talking about is culture. And culture is some of the elements of culture within a team are, how do we treat one another? Do we treat each other with respect? Do we treat each other with disdain? How do we communicate as part of culture? Do we communicate openly? Do we communicate honestly? Do we communicate not at all? Do we gossip? Do we use a lot of sarcasm? All of those things go into a culture, and ultimately you as a leader, you create that culture. So what I would propose to you is that leadership is not just about X's and O's and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and doing budgets and going to meetings and all of those other things. A big part of your job as a leader is to take care of the people on your team. Take care of the individuals on your team, support them, not just with resources around training and money and all those things, but support them psychologically. So when I hear comments like, well, I can't force you guys to get along, I call absolute bullshit on that. As a leader, it's your job to make sure that the team is cohesive. That is a big part of your job. So if you're saying comments like, I don't have time to deal with that shit, or you guys figure it out yourselves, well, then you're doing yourself and you're doing your team a huge disservice. And you're not being a leader, frankly. You're being a supervisor. So part of leadership is leaning in and creating that culture and enforcing standards of behavior, enforcing how people communicate with one another, enforcing a no gossip rule, all those things. So when you say that I don't have time for that, or you guys figure it out, then you're being a supervisor, frankly, and you're not being a leader. Now, just so we're clear, I also want to, you don't want to be fixing everyone's problems either. I totally get it. But you cannot just take your hands off the wheel and just assume the problem is going to go away, particularly around personality clashes, because it won't. In fact, it's going to get worse. And so as a leader, you are responsible for that culture and take responsibility for that culture. Do you want to be sitting down and talking with people about some of their personal challenges or the challenges they're having around, communicating with one another? No, nobody does. I totally get it. But too bad, so sad. That's part of being a good leader, and that's part of leaning in. So as a leader, be responsible for the culture and take ownership for that culture. So if there's threats to that culture, as I said, there's gossip going on, or there's some sort of toxicity happening, or just kind of bullshit. Well, guess what, leader? Don't wash your hands of it. You are responsible for it. If you're upset that during meetings people are on their phones all the time and they're not listening, newsflash, you're the leader. You have the ability and, in fact, the responsibility to enforce maybe no phones during a meeting. Wow, that's neat. Solve the problem yourself. Don't blame other people. Part of leadership is being responsible, taking responsibility, making sure that the culture is created. Now, if you don't do that, then you run the real risk of a toxic kind of a cancer within the team happening and starting to spread. Misery loves company. Absolutely it does, because then what starts to happen is that cancer, let's say it's an individual that's not being toxic, they're talking behind somebody's back. What will start to happen is that individual, and it's natural, will start to look for alliances, and will start to look for support, look for coalition. We call it coalition building, where misery does love company. And hey, Brad, how are you, bud? So as a leader, if you do not enforce the culture of what right looks like or what feels like, then nobody else is going to, and that cancer will now multiply. And then pretty soon your hands are so far off the wheel that you're not even sure, you're not even aware that there's chaos happening amongst your team, where people aren't communicating well, they're not sharing information, they're not even looking at each other. So as a leader, be responsible for that culture. And yes, you can enforce what right looks like. If, as I said, if you hear about people doing bullshit gossiping around the lunchroom, yeah, as a leader, you can fix that, and you should be fixing that. Otherwise, you're a supervisor, you're not actually leading. So I wanted to leave you with that. So by all means, somewhere in this page in Instagram, you can sign up for our weekly digest. But I was just really wanting to enforce the fact that you as a leader are responsible for your team's culture. And that's a big part of your leadership journey and part of your responsibility. So be responsible and take ownership for it. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you probably even tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.